This is Egypt, made and renewed by the eternal Nile, whose annual flood brings the water of life down from a mysterious source beyond all known horizons. In this barren land, the ancient Egyptians worshipped power, the power of the sun that flooded the land with light, and the power of the river flowing out of nowhere, creating Egypt new every year from its own rich substance. The sun god and the river god made man civilized in the valley of the Nile. Pharaoh, the god-king, commanded his millions of people to work together. The earth's first nation state was born here, to endure for more than 3,000 years beside the river, under the sun. Egypt is a thin strip of life in a vast desert. The Nile is not only the source of all life, but also the nation's highway. During the annual flood, the waters carried millions of granite blocks from the quarries at Aswan and along the river to build cities, temples, and tombs, the world's first architecture in stone. For thousands of years, Egypt watched for the Nile flood, which arrived almost on the same day every year. Then for 3 months it poured out of the desert. Nobody knew why the river should act like this in the middle of burning summer, when all the other rivers of the earth were drying up. The people never ceased to wonder, as every year the Nile spread into every corner of Egypt, turning the bitter desert into a sweet lake, the annual secret of the Nile. Century upon century, for 6,000 years, from dawn to dusk, the fellahin, the farmers of Egypt, stood in the same places, working the shaduf, raising up Nile water for gardens of dates and barley, garlic and onions. This laborious lifting of water fed the ancient land of Egypt. Without the shaduf and the fellahin's daily toil, there would have been no food, no great temples, no cities. The earth has turned to stone. The people's happiness or misery depended upon the annual flood, and sometimes the flood failed to come. Written upon this rock,
for 7 years the Nile has not risen. The fields are dry. No man buries his neighbor. Children weep. All Egypt perishes.